87 warm.
On a special edition of WeatherScope, the latest on Hurricane Fran, right after your local forecast. From the Weather Channel.
Hurricane Fran batters the beaches of North Carolina this evening with heavy rains and high winds. You're looking at pictures from Carolina Beach, and just hours after these pictures were taken, Fran made landfall with sustained winds of 115 miles an hour. Thanks for joining us here in the Weather Channel Forecast Center. I'm Mike Seidel. The latest on Fran. Still a hurricane. It is weakening now as it is over land areas, but still a very dangerous storm, and the problems will continue well into the weekend. Let's give you the latest now from the National Hurricane Center from Miami, and this is the 11 o'clock update. We'll have another update here at 1 a.m. Eastern, 34.5 north, 78.1 west if you're tracking at home. And you can see the storm, the hurricane did make that turn towards the north and northwest and more to the northerly direction during the day today. It's now currently moving north at 16, sustained winds of 100 miles an hour. So now it's a Category 2 hurricane. It came on shore as a Category 3 hurricane. The pressure continues to rise. It's up to 965 millibars. Here is Fran. Now, through the overnight hours, we're going into what we call the eclipse mode with the satellite pictures. This happens every summer, and that's the problem with the satellite and the sun and the orientation with the Earth. So from this point on, our pictures are not going to be updating for another 3 or 4 hours, but this picture is about an hour old, and you get a sense of where the eye is now off to the northwest of Wilmington, North Carolina, continuing to move off to the north. And look at the expanse of the red and orange area. That's where we have the convection, the heavy rains, rainfall rates at 1 to 2 inches an hour. And some areas have already had a foot of rain, and even around the Raleigh-Durham area. Watch out in the next half an hour or so, because down the road in Goldsboro, they have reported wind gusts to 63 miles an hour. And this wind area and this rain will be extending to the north up towards the Richmond area, also up towards the Washington-Baltimore area, and even over in Jacksonville, North Carolina, winds are still gusting this past hour to 83 miles an hour, with a good sign out of Jacksonville over around Camp Lejeune in that area as the pressure now is rising rapidly. Here's their Doppler radar, and again, you can pick up the brighter colors. This is where the heavier rain bands are, and this is where you'll likely get those higher wind gusts in excess of hurricane force of 74 miles an hour. The eye of Fran, if you can pick it out somewhere right in here. Now, earlier this evening, the Weather Channel's Jill Brown was in the thick of things. She was in the eye of Hurricane Fran for about an hour and a half. Right now, Jill, the southern eye wall has moved back through you, but as we have seen and as you have been reporting, not anything like you saw earlier this evening.
No, it really hasn't been anything much on the backside, actually. Winds are considerably lighter. The rain is not nearly as heavy, mainly drizzle, actually. We are somewhat protected by the building, so it's not quite as windy here as what it would be if we were out in the middle of an open field, that's for sure, even onto the side of the building. Temperatures dropped somewhat, as is typical. In the eye, it was very warm and humid. Now it's a little chilly and damp out here. But as things quiet down tonight, people are pretty happy in Brunswick County. There are a lot of trees down. There's going to be some damage, but they've had much fewer reports of damage and injuries and problems than they expected with this, believe it or not. And now that things have calmed down a little bit, actually a few people here at the Emergency Management Center are heading home already. Of course, most of the staff will be here through the night to see how things go. And it's probably going to be another couple of hours, but it'll still be very windy. They'll stay wet for a while longer, but it's going to be until sunrise before we really see what has happened. And by the way, if you're thinking about calling in to emergency management to ask how your home is down near the coast, they really don't know yet. We have people here from Ocean Isle and from Bald Head Island that are very anxious to get back out there. Emergency management officials, they want to know how their house is, so unfortunately they can't tell you how your house is either. We'll just have to wait till morning.
That's a very good point, Jill, because up and down the Carolina coast, a lot of people are certainly in the shelters, and they're watching us tonight wondering what is the state of their property. And of course the barrier islands were evacuated beginning yesterday and continuing into the early hours of this morning. And the point is made, and rightfully so, that until the sun comes up and the EMS folks, the police officials can get back over to those barrier areas, we have no idea of knowing what the damage has been so far. But you have mentioned earlier this evening some sustained damage in the Southport area down towards the coast.
Right, we heard a report of a roof collapse in an apartment building there. We also had a couple here whose home was on the is on the causeway. As the water started coming in the front door, they thought it was time to leave, so they came here. They said they did get actually even a little bit of water with Bertha, so they're in a kind of a tough situation there. They're going back now. They said that they'll be able to sleep on the second floor, they think, and then clean up the downstairs. But they have already left to go back and see how things are at home.
Just a minute ago, you mentioned kind of a general statement about the damage and what's going on away from the coast, where you've been able to ascertain what has happened so far. Do you have any specifics as far as power outages, anything of that nature?
Well, yes, pretty much everyone in Brunswick County is going to be without power at this point. I haven't heard an estimate as to how long it'll take to get it back on. That's probably, again, something that once they see how things look in the morning that they'll be able to tell us more on. But we talked to Sheriff Hewitt earlier in the evening, and he said they felt pretty lucky. Trees down, some high water, but things were a little bit better than they had expected.
Okay, Jill, we appreciate the updates this evening. Jill Brown, who spent an hour and a half in the eye of Hurricane Fran and now is back into some of the wind and rain from the southern part of the storm. I want to touch base now on the hurricane warnings because they are still up, and we don't want you to let your guard down by no means just because Fran is on shore. This is not a time to race down to the coast. We still have the hurricane warnings from Cape Fear up to the North Carolina-Virginia border, including the Sounds. And one of the problems with the hurricane now on shore, we're still getting a lot of wind in from the southeast and south. And this strong east to southeast wind is pushing water into the Neuse and Pamlico rivers. Flooding has already been reported along the Trent River in New Bern, as well as along several waterways in Beaufort County. The base of the Trent River Bridge is underwater. The bridge is not passable. Front Street in New Bern is reported to be flooded, and water was 2 feet deep in the parking lot at the Sheridan Motel in New Bern, and water levels in Washington are up more than 7 feet. By the way, Highway 17 between Washington and 4 miles south, down 17 from Washington, is closed due to flooding. And some of the latest wind gusts coming in now. Fort Bragg, wind gusts past hour to 66 miles an hour. You've had a gust to 50 miles an hour in Raleigh. And up in the Tidewater area, already winds have gusted as high as 36 at the Hampton Roads area. And up around Washington, your winds are picking up. It's a bit breezy now in the Washington-Baltimore area. The tornado watch continues through the overnight hours and all the way until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And this could be extended up towards the Washington-Baltimore area. We'll just have to wait and see. Look at this rainfall total. This is the other big story, and we can't certainly not say enough about what may happen this weekend. Where you see the rose and pink colored areas, this is where the Doppler radar has indicated at least 10 inches of rain. You can see how it continues to add up towards the north central part of the state, up towards the Raleigh area. Any place in yellow has picked up more than 3 inches of rainfall, and this whole area is adding up as it moves off to the north, as Hurricane Fran moves north at 16 miles an hour. Now, locally, we're expecting 10 inches of rain. Some of you have already seen that, but it's the mountainous areas where we're really concerned about flooding. This is the rainfall total between now and dinner time on Friday. But look at this, late Friday afternoon, we're still dealing with a tropical storm, and look at these isobars packed together. Lines of equal barometric pressure. That means a lot of wind coming on shore. It's going to be windy around Washington and Baltimore. And again, we're going to be following this whole area from the southern Appalachians up through the Poconos and Catskills for flooding. that could be the real story, certainly after the winds start to die down later on tonight. But even tomorrow, we're looking at a tropical storm tomorrow evening in the Washington area. So a lot happening here at the Weather Channel. Once again, Fran now down to 100-mile-an-hour winds, moving north at 16 through North Carolina with heavy rains continuing and flooding continuing to go on as damage reports roll in. Of course, everybody's probably thinking about the weekend and the rest of the country and also the effects of Fran. Let's get that forecast now from Sharon Resultan.
Well, thank you, Mike. Dave Schwartz standing in for Sharon Resultan right now. Hey, there's the hurricane.